Today we're going to be looking at the new approval polls and analyzing them. These polls are from the Morning Consult. They do every month, I believe, or every 2 months. They do the America's most popular and least popular senators in the United States. So they go to each state, and then they pretty much take an approval poll of either senator. Obviously, there are 2 for each state. And then they say, how do you approve of them? Do you disapprove of them? And some people have no opinion. And there is always a margin of error depending on which state that they are polling. Obviously, in states like Alaska, it's going to be 5% because, again, it is one more of a different state than where they would poll in areas like Maryland or Pennsylvania. But still, regardless, it will be mildly of an accurate indication of what we might see in the 2018 midterms. So we have a number of key races that I've pretty much picked out to focus on. I do not have the 2018 Senate map up right now, but I will be doing a new updated video of the 2018 Senate elections based off the Senate approvals for each incumbent senator, both on the Republican and Democratic side, just to see how well that these senators have done. So we'll start off by looking at the state of Michigan. So let's scroll down. Let's find the state of Michigan. Right now, Debbie Stabenow, she's going for re-election. She actually is only approved 2% more than disapproved. But keep in mind there are 22 don't know or no opinion voters, so still a number of them could be Democrats or Republicans. But right now, the only people that do firmly oppose her only oppose her by 38%. So 38% of people in Michigan oppose her, and 40% of them do approve of her. So that could make her race a little bit more contested than you might think. We go over to the state of Michigan, but by the way, you should still expect a Democratic victory because she is known for being able to win very well in areas that Barack Obama couldn't even win in. But the state of Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin, actually improving her approval rating. Right before, she was underwater by 1%. Now she is above water by 5%. So pretty interesting. Wisconsin could show a little bit more of Democratic tendencies, especially since we've seen a few more new opinion polls that show key Democrats ahead. Not only Tammy Baldwin, but a number of Democrats in the governor's race there by double digits. We'll go over to the state of Pennsylvania. This one should be pretty interesting. Bob Casey actually has a net 10% approval rating, meaning 42% of people in Pennsylvania approve of him, 32% disapprove of him. Again, that 26% could be Democratic or Republican, but still pretty good. Probably shows this race is not as close as people might think. And then we go over to the state of North Dakota. I'm going to show you a bigger graphic later on after we finish this off. But Heidi Heitkamp now in dead heat between her approval and disapproval, 44% to 44%. Before, it was at 50% a while ago, back in 2017. Now it's at 44%. So again, a lot of Republicans focusing on this race a lot, and for good reason. This one is going to be very contested. Sherrod Brown, right under North Dakota, actually has a pretty good approval rating, 44% compared to 29% disapprove. Again, even though there are a number of undecided voters, those could actually factor in when it comes down to it. But right now, we're at a good standing for the Democratic Party. I'm looking at their approval polls compared to even Rob Portman, who won back in 2016, actually by a considerable amount. So keep that in mind. We'll go over to the state of Missouri. So we actually need to scroll up here. The state of Missouri, Claire McCaskill, a negative net approval rating by 4%. So that's not good for her, but she's also doing pretty well in opinion polls. So keep that in mind. She got very lucky with her GOP opponent, but these polls definitely could spell trouble for the Democratic Party in the state of Missouri. Here's what I want you guys to notice. We'll go over to the state of Florida, where Rick Scott is running. Right now, Bill Nelson has a higher approval rating than Marco Rubio. He currently has a net 10% approval rating over his disapproval rating, whereas Marco Rubio has a net 1% approval rating over his disapproval rating. Keep that in mind. Bill Nelson, 44% approve, 34% disapprove. Again, with undecided voters, those could factor in when it comes down to it. But he's not as unpopular as you might think, especially since this is a swing state. You should expect very good numbers for both political parties. Right now, the Democrats are actually doing a little bit better compared to the Republican in the state of Florida. But right now, West Virginia, Joe Manchin, 45% to 43%. So it's actually gone a little bit up compared to where it used to be. Before, he was disapproved of by a considerable amount, and now it is at 45% approved for him compared to his Republican colleague who has a 46% approval rating. But right now, the Republicans are doing much better in terms of approval than Joe Manchin in this state, but still, he's probably going to win re-election. Actually likely to win re-election based off his candidate. The state of Montana, let's see if we can find it here. Scrolling up a little bit, the state of Montana. John Tester actually has a much better approval rating than his Republican colleague at 50% to a disapproval rating of 36%. So obviously, that's why I call Montana for the Democrat almost every single time. Montana's probably not flipping in this election. Over in Indiana, just going up a little bit. Right now, Joe Donnelly, 41% approve, 34% disapprove. His Republican colleague, 42% approve, 28% disapprove. So still at a pretty good standing. Joe Donnelly, 7% net approval rating over his disapproval rating, which isn't the worst for a Democrat in Indiana. The state of Virginia, let's see if we can find it down here. Right now, Tim Kaine is up for re-election, but again, he's probably not going to lose. We really don't need to focus on Virginia much. Just know that he has a net 10% approval rating over his disapproval rating. The state of Arizona, this one has an unpopular incumbent Republican senator, Jeff Flake, 21% net negative approval rating. 21% more people in the state of Arizona disapprove of him than approve of him, which is why this race has gotten very contested. A lot of people want to see a turnover here, not just on the Democratic side, which is why Arizona is probably one of the first focuses for the Democratic Party, especially since it would show a new type of Democrat in the Sun Belt area that typically isn't there in usual elections. Nevada, see if we can find it. Dean Heller, negative approval rating, 40% disapprove, 37% approval. He's up for re-election against Jackie Rosen, the Democrat, a representative from the 3rd District in the state of Nevada. That race definitely could get a lot closer. Again, these numbers are not looking good for Dean Heller. Tennessee, see if we can find it down here. Bob Corker, he is not up for re-election. He is retiring a seat, so Tennessee really, approval rating of the Republican isn't that important, but just keep in mind it's only a positive 4% approval rating, but still undecided voters, which can make the difference. Ted Cruz actually has a very high approval rating for someone that is considered into a leaning or likely seat, so he's probably going to win re-election with these numbers. He's just gone down a little bit from before. I believe it was at 49 or 50%, so still up there at 48%. Not much to expect. Over in Utah, actually, that's where we're going next. Orrin Hatch has a positive 4% approval rating, higher than I expected, considering that many Utah residents said they would not vote for him if he ran for re-election and would actually elect a Democrat before they elected Orrin Hatch. Orrin Hatch was losing double digits to a Democrat, and then Mitt Romney rolls in and starts winning by 45% in opinion polls. Very interesting. So the final state we're going to look at actually has 2 races. Pretty sure you can guess which one that is, but that is the state of Minnesota. Right here, Tina Smith, who is up for the special election. Her approval rating has gone up, and her disapproval rating has gone up as well. 37% to 21%. She's still likely to win her first, not really first full term, but first Senate election. Amy Klobuchar is probably going to win the Minnesota election here with a 60% approval rating and only a 24% disapproval rating. Very, very interesting, to say the least. Now let's go ahead and look at the graphic that I wanted to mention. So 10 out of the 12 vulnerable senators outperformed Trump's net approval rating in each state. Over in Montana, John Tester, 14% net approval, 3% for Donald Trump. Florida, 2% for Donald Trump. Bill Nelson at 10%. Sherrod Brown, 16%. In Ohio, negative 7% for Donald Trump, okay? Over in Bob Casey's state of Pennsylvania, a state that was key to Trump's victory in 2016, negative 5% for Trump, positive 9% for Bob Casey. Joe Donnelly, even in Indiana, negative 5% here. Positive 5% here. Joe Donnelly at 8% here. So still outperforming the president. Over in Wisconsin, actually this is a big one, negative 16% for Donald Trump, positive 5%, going up above where she was before. Okay, keep that in mind. Right now, we see in Joe Manchin's state of West Virginia, this one should be expected, 23% approval rating for the president, only 3% for Joe Manchin, which is why many Democrats think that it's possible to lose here. But Joe Manchin is probably going to edge this race out, especially given his candidate. But Debbie Stabenow, Donald Trump at negative 12. She's at positive 3. In Heidi Heitkamp state of North Dakota, it's even here between the approve and disapprove, down 8% from where she was before, and negative 10 for Donald Trump in the state of North Dakota. So that's pretty interesting to say the least, but still, you should expect North Dakota to still be a Republican state in 2020. Not too much to expect. Negative 7, which is pretty interesting. I don't get how North Dakota disapproves more of the president than the states of Pennsylvania or Ohio or Montana or Florida or even areas such as like Missouri, which was closer than the state of North Dakota, or Nevada, which Hillary Clinton won, which was pretty interesting. So again, there are always some discrepancies within a poll. They still spell out bad news for the Republicans that are trying to run on the Trump factor and just on the president coming out and campaigning for them, like he said he would, 6 to 7 days a week, 60 days out from the election. Dean Heller, negative 3. Donald Trump, negative 7. Keep in mind this is a Republican incumbent, so not that important. Clarence McCaskill, currently Donald Trump positively approved it by 2%. Her approval rating went up, but still at negative 4. And the final state we're going to focus on is in New Jersey. Bob Menendez, we don't mention him much. We're going to do a New Jersey set an analysis probably tomorrow after my routine monthly videos. But still, Bob Menendez, negative 8% approval rating, but still negative 16% approval rating for Donald Trump. So keep that in mind. Keep this graphic in mind. Keep in mind all these numbers that I mentioned and what it means possibly for the 2018 midterms. So thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.